We are here for our 9 p.m. briefing with regards to the winter storm that has unfortunately hit us with a vengeance in the South Towns. I'm Erie County Executive Mark Polenkars. We are joined by, and you'll hear from Sheriff John Garcia, as well as we're joined by Under Sheriff William Cooley. We are also joined by our Commissioner of the Department of Public Works, Bill Geary, our Commissioner of the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, Dan Nevitz Jr., and also joining us is our Director and Commissioner of the Department of Purchase, Valley Faraccio, one of those unsung heroes that you don't usually see in front of the television, but is always working at these emergencies to ensure that we have the finances necessary and the resources necessary to get through these terrible times. So glad to have you here, Valley. And of course, we're joined by Karen Gambino of Deaf Access Services to provide the American Sign Language. The state of emergency declarations, we have one new state of emergency declaration since we talked at 3 o'clock. That is the town of West Seneca, but we still have declarations in place for the county of Erie, the city of Buffalo, the city of Lackawanna, town of Amherst, town of Cheektowaga, town of Clarence, town of Evans, town of Hamburg, town of Orchard Park, town of Tonawanda. As we said, the new one is the town of West Seneca, as well as the villages of Angola, Blaisdell, Depew, Hamburg, Lancaster, and Orchard Park. This is an event that has hit the South Towns with a vengeance very hard, and all of these communities are under a state of emergency at this point. Travel ban and advisory zones. The travel ban that we talked about earlier today at 3 o'clock is still in the same effect as of now. Buffalo, south of downtown, and William Street, so that includes all of South Buffalo, most of the Lovejoy district, as well as part of the Ellicott Council District, as well as the full city of Lackawanna. And then the towns of Cheektowaga, Lancaster, Alden, West Seneca, Elma, Marilla, Hamburg, Orchard Park, Aurora, Wales, Evans, Eden, Boston. We want to note something that we didn't really talk about earlier, but we've been trying to get message out otherwise, is in a travel ban, if you have an employer, you are located in a travel ban or a location, or your employees live in a travel ban location and you're asking them to leave the area, unless they're an essential emergency worker, you cannot force your employees to violate a travel ban. It's actually a misdemeanor if they do that. So we're just reminding employers, you cannot force your employees unless they are essential emergency personnel responding to the storm effort to violate the travel ban. And we know, we've heard from a number of individuals who've gotten stuck on the roads today that they were told they had to come in and work, even though it meant driving through treacherous conditions or leaving the safety of their home to go somewhere else, and then unfortunately getting stuck. Now, travel ban means no travel. Travel ban doesn't mean, hey, I get to drive around and check out conditions. It means no travel. 300 plus tickets have been written by law enforcement as of at least an hour and a half ago or so. Abandoned cars will be ticketed and are towed at owner's expense. The county is ticketing and towing vehicles, as we'll talk about in a bit, in the areas that we're handling. And please do not be the reason that an ambulance cannot get to the hospital. But there are many vehicles that are not only getting stuck, but are just being abandoned by their owners, trucks, regular automobiles on the side of the road, in the middle of the road. And then as we're coming along to try to clean these roads, we have to get in there, take a tow truck, and tow them out. And as I'll describe in a second, we are towing them to the McKinley Mall lot that used to be part of the Sears that is no longer there. Road closures, we still have the same road closures as before. The thruway from exits 53 to 59, commercial vehicles from the PA line to exit 46, which is the 390 outside of Rochester. One of the problems that we're seeing is that commercial vehicles, tractor trailers, have been getting off the thruway, but then trying to get into our region by going up routes 5, Route 20, other routes, and getting stuck. 219 is still closed. The 400 is still closed. Route 5, the Buffalo Skyway, is still closed. Routes 5 and 20 in Evans are in the process of being cleared. They are closed because they're in the driving ban zone. But we had terrible problems on Route 5 and 20 earlier with jackknife vehicles, including even a vehicle that was struck by a train as it was stuck at a train crossing, though thankfully there does not appear to have been any injuries because the train was moving so slow. But these are the things that we've been dealing with during, I shouldn't say I or anything like that, but when I say we, I mean the first responders, the law enforcement that have been in the field, the public works, with the major difficulties that have existed as a result of this storm. I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff John Garcia now to talk more about what the Sheriff's Office has been dealing with, what they've been seeing, and once again, I really thank all the members of law enforcement, including the deputies and hardworking staff of our Sheriff's Office and all the police departments out there for the tremendous effort that they've been putting in. Many of them have been working overnight, no sleep. We actually have cots that are being set up in our emergency operations centers for the individuals who are here who can't go home because it's such a bad location. And to each and every one of those, thank you very much. Sheriff?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well said, County Executive. I can say that our deputies have been just absolutely inundated with calls for service as it pertains to disabled motor vehicles and stranded motorists. And you know, we implore the residents to just please obey the travel ban. You become part of the problem very quickly when you're out there on the streets. And you know, the temptation is you see the snow stop, but that does not mean the roads are passable. So until such time as they are, please, you know, just stay off the roads and give the plow guys a chance to get caught up and get into these secondary routes. We've had many situations today that involved rescues. Approximately a dozen people were stranded in the vicinity of Maple and Jamison Road, and deputies and firefighters responded and were able to kind of get them all out of their vehicles and into the fire hall. Again, many of these folks probably shouldn't have been on the road. And there was another situation I could share with you that took place in Hamburg, where there was a motorist that was lost in the storm, and you know, when you're out in this type of weather for an extended period of time, there comes with all sorts of risks with respect to exposure and carbon monoxide. So these are all things that can happen very quickly. And in this particular situation, we did some work to locate this individual's cell phone, and an off-duty Hamburg cop did a very nice job in locating him, and I'm happy to report he's recovering well at the hospital. So, you know, I guess the takeaway is please stay off the roads. And I'd also like to give recognition to the hard-working men and women of our jail management division, who many of which have volunteered to work extra shifts and work 16, 17, 18 hours in some instances to staff our facilities. So we appreciate their effort as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Under Sheriff. Department of Public Works. The Department of Public Works has all its equipment out. We have been assisting municipalities outside basically of the city of Buffalo. The city of Buffalo has been getting assistance from New York State. We've been assisting outside the city of Buffalo. Erie County has hired private contractors to bring 40 high lifts and 20 other large trucks and vehicles to help dig out the south towns. The snow that we are picking up with bucket trucks and putting in trucks is being dumped at the lots at SUNY Erie South. So they were able to clear part of the lots at SUNY Erie South so they could come in and dump the excess snow that is being collected on streets, and then unfortunately we have to take it somewhere, so it's being put on the extra lots at SUNY Erie South. Erie County contractors have cleared the former Sears lot at the McKinley Mall as a parking area for tractor trailers and towed vehicles. You may wonder, why did we plow a vacant lot? Well, we had to plow the vacant lot because we had to take these tractor trailers and these abandoned vehicles somewhere. So the contractors cleared that out, and now as the tow truck companies are moving these vehicles, or the tractor trailer drivers are driving them, they're being told they have to go there. They can't continue onwards. So if a tractor trailer driver has their vehicle, they have to drive to the Sears lot at the McKinley Mall, and if it's a towed vehicle, it's being towed there for future pickup. I'm going to turn it over to our Commissioner of Public Works, Bill Gary, to talk a little bit more about this effort and truthfully, what is a tremendous effort by not only his team, but the rest of the staff to ensure that we get through this as quickly as possible. Commissioner?
Thank you, County Executive.
As the county executive stated, our crews for the last 21 hours straight, especially in the hardest hit area from Lackawanna South over to Orchard Park, West Seneca, Evans, Hamburg, that they're continuing to dig out, and in some cases we're going to be far surpass 5 feet of snow, and that's in a 21-hour period of time. So that's a remarkable amount of time. They've done everything they can to keep roads open, and it's not just Erie County, it's municipals, it's New York State DOT. Everybody's been working together in tandem. We probably could have been a little bit more successful in our efforts had it not been for a lot of tractor trailers and other vehicles that turned the roads into parking lots, and trying to navigate a tandem dump truck with a 12-foot wide plow hanging off the front end of that in a slalom course is not easy. So they're the consummate professionals out there doing that work. And it's just great work that they've been doing. We're not done by any means. We've, as of 15 minutes ago, started to see the snow flurries finally let up in that area. It's the first break since probably early yesterday afternoon. The crews, the contractors, everybody's going to be working together. We're going to be hauling quite a bit of snow. We've already started in the city of Lackawanna, as the city from the South Buffalo area has been somewhat clear. There's streets, it's going to take little by little, though. Each dump truck, high lift, is going to be going down, and we'll be hauling that, like the county executive said, probably a huge mountain of snow at ECC South by the time we get to it. But we're going to be going across state highways, local highways. We have a plow down type theory out there. So even our high lifts, we may be clearing roads that aren't county roads, and you may be hearing trucks through the middle of the night. We really want to get this area back up to normal, and no one wants to be out there any longer than they have to. So the expected duration, at least right now, we're going to reevaluate Sunday morning, but we'll be digging out around the clock, and we'll add on more assets if needed. Tow trucks, if that's becoming a pretty big tool, sometimes more important than a plow. Those vehicles will be towed, and the owners will be probably paying a nice tow bill to come get their stranded vehicle that they abandoned. With that, turn it back over.
Thank you, Commissioner. One of the things that we talked about earlier is that really it's a yeoman effort by the Department of Public Works, not only in Erie County, but all of them, Department of Transportation from the state and the local governments, to keep open these main arterial roads. Now, when I say that, it doesn't mean that if it's a 4-lane road that all 4 lanes are open. There may be 1 lane north, 1 lane south. It's not for you to drive on. It's for our emergency personnel to get to other parts. If an ambulance has to respond to a call and it needs to go, let's say, from the South Towns to Mercy Hospital, it has to find a way there. So we've tried to keep open Abbott Road. We've tried to keep open all these main roads. It hasn't been easy. 8 years ago, almost every one of those roads was inundated to the point where none of them were passable. We have made it so they're passable for emergency personnel, but that doesn't mean that they are there for you to drive on them, because it is not in that type of condition. So once again, thank you to all the members of the Departments of Public Works and Transportation who've worked countless, well, no, we can count the hours. It's basically been almost a full day since this snow started. Emergency warming shelters. There are emergency warming shelters. I want to thank you to the towns of Hamburg and Evans, as well as the Red Cross, for opening the following emergency shelters and warming centers: the Hamburg Senior Center on Southwestern Boulevard, the Big Tree Fire Hall, Tree Road in Hamburg, the Evans Center Fire Hall on Erie Road, and a Canaletian Center on George Urban Boulevard in Cheektowaga. I'm going to ask our Commissioner of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, Dan Neverett, to come up, just talk a little bit more about the effort that's being put in by our partners in the emergency services field.
I just wanted to reiterate a couple of tales from the road. We coordinate things here, not only with our first response community, but also with the utilities. Story today, we had not once but twice where the utilities contacted us where they needed to get from point A to point B. They couldn't do it, though, because the roads were blocked, because there were vehicles and tractor trailers that were there. It delayed restoring utilities, in this particular case electric, to an entire neighborhood by about 2.5 to 3 hours, because a simple little switch flip couldn't be done because they couldn't get access to that. That's tale number one. We have resources here for potential structural collapses, as well as backup relief crews for volunteer fire departments. We tried sending several of those crews out about 1.5 hours, 2 hours ago. They had to turn around because they couldn't get through because the roads were blocked by people that were not supposed to be out on the roads. So if you don't think this has a trickle-down impact on you, by you being out and driving around needlessly. It does. So we're trying to work our way through that. And one final tale from the road. When I was coming back into the Emergency Operations Center tonight, areas where there are no vehicles that are abandoned, where there are no tractor trailers that are stuck, where there was significant snow today, is down almost to dry pavement from about West Seneca all the way into Cheektowaga. So if you don't think it makes a difference to stay off the roads, give it a second thought.
Thank you, Commissioner, and well said. The latest update from the National Service that we Weather Service that we received as of 7:30 offers some glimmer of hope for our friends in the South Towns, because the snow ban has moved south. So some of the areas that were receiving snow all day, like Lackawanna, Hamburg, West Seneca, they're actually seeing no snow right now. It's moved further south. And it is expected that it will once again move north around 11 p.m. So it's going to pass through that region and continue north. So it'll enter the city of Buffalo. And the northern part of Erie County, which really didn't receive much of any snow, should see snow in the overnight hours. So this is a glimmer of hope for our friends in the South Towns who've been dealing with constant snow over and over and over. And this snow, we're actually very glad to see. If it's not stopping, it's moving out of the area. So it is going to pass back through the region, but it's going to move north according to the estimate from the Weather Service, to the point in Saturday it will actually be also in Niagara County. And I want to thank our fellow counties in Western New York who've sent assistance and offered help. Thank you very much. So this is the latest from the National Weather Service as of 7:30, and it does give us some hope that the next 24 hours will be much better, even though we know that snow is still going to end up falling at various times in the region. Two deaths earlier, two males in Erie County who passed as a result of shoveling and snow blowing, in which they suffered cardiac heart attack events. We have had no other deaths that we're aware of. Once again, we offer on behalf of everybody in Erie County, offer our deepest condolences to the family and friends of those who were lost. And you don't need to shovel, especially now. Wait. Try to, if you know you have a cardiac issue, if you have a heart issue, high blood pressure, don't go out there. This snow is very heavy, very wet, and it's getting colder out now too. So please, shovel smart. Don't shovel if you don't need to. Let somebody else who's more capable to do it. Carbon monoxide poisoning, we have not had any cases that we're aware of people who lost power and used the generator and may have suffered from carbon monoxide poisoning. It often does happen in these situations. Earlier today, we had more than 7,000 customers in the Orchard Park area that had lost power. There were still some customers in the town of Boston, town of Hamburg, Orchard Park area had lost power. If you use a generator to heat your home, to energize it after losing power, that generator has to be outside more than 20 feet from a window or a door. You don't want it inside a garage. You don't want it inside, of course. You don't want it right next to the house. It's got to be 20 feet away. You don't want the carbon monoxide coming into the house and killing you, because you won't know it's happening. It's odorless. We also talk about this, and it really matters because of the size of the snowfall, 5.5 feet recorded by a trained spotter from the Weather Service in Orchard Park, as well as 4 feet plus in other areas. Your furnace outlets, your furnace vents, especially the new furnaces that don't go through the chimney stack that are along the side. If you can see this little picture on the screen, it sort of says the furnace vent is saying, if I can't breathe, your furnace isn't safe. You need to ensure that your furnace vent on the side of your house, especially for these high efficiency furnaces, is clear. The same thing can go for a dryer vent. If you have a dryer vent on the side of your house and you're running your dryer, it's a gas dryer. Where do you think that gas is going? There's a portion of it that's not being burned, and it's going to go out with the vent. So you got to clear your dryer vent, clear your furnace vent. So we haven't heard of any incidences so far. I'm looking back, and I think everyone's saying yes. We haven't heard of any incidents so far, so let's keep that up. If you are in one of these areas that has a lot of snow, make sure your furnace vent, your dryer vent is clear. Then finally, a neighbor check. If you have seniors, please check on them. We know that some of them have been cooped up but please check on them, make certain that they have what they need. If a senior needs prescriptions, they have certain issues, and they're at risk of health issue, you should call 911. We hope that every senior has at least 2 weeks of prescriptions on hand, but if you are in a health situation that is an emergency, please call 911. If it's just an issue where your senior may be next door, needs some food, give them some of your food. Help them out in this time of need. We are getting through it. It is not the easiest thing to do. I once again commend and thank all of the first responders, law enforcement, public works, you name it, that have been out, volunteers from the Red Cross and other areas that have basically been putting themselves in a very, very treacherous situation to get our community through this. And on behalf of myself and the people in Erie County, thank you, because you're making a difference. It could be much worse. And it is showing, because I think we're starting that recovery. It's going to take some time. We're not going to be able to open up every neighborhood in 24 hours. There are places that are still going to probably have some time before the bucket trucks come and clear out their streets. But please, please understand we're working as hard as we can in very difficult circumstances. With that, I'll entertain any questions if there are any.
Any traffic accident fatalities you can speak about?
The question was, are there any traffic accident fatalities we can talk about? I'm not aware of any.
No, sir.
None that we're aware of.
I mean, that's good, right, compared to 2014?
The point was, it's good that there's no traffic fatalities as compared to 2014, and the answer is yes, because unfortunately there were a couple that were related to traffic fatalities. And we think one of the reasons is, even though we have been dealing with issues associated with people on the roads, the vast majority of the public has stayed home, has listened to the driving ban, travel ban order, and I want to thank the members of the public for doing that. You put yourself at risk of not only getting stuck, but getting in an accident or being hit. I mean, earlier today there was a car that got stuck that it was hit by a train. Thankfully, the train condition. So to the members of the public who've been hunkered down, staying home, thank you. You're making a difference just by staying at home and not being on the streets. Let me go to.
Earlier today, you said there was a roof collapse in Hamburg. Do you have an update on that building, and are there any other structural compromises?
The question is, earlier today I announced a roof collapse in Hamburg. Do we have any more information? An individual was rescued, thankfully without any real harm. It was a Cape Cod style house is what I was told. We have not heard of any other roof collapses. I do know that New York State has a tactical team that was brought in to assist in situations where collapses of roofs are possible. But as of right now, I have not heard of any other roof collapses. No, no one else has either.
Is the wetness and the weight of the snow hampering your removal efforts at this point?
The question is the wetness and the weight of the snow hampering removal efforts? Yes, but I'll turn it over to others. Bill?
Yeah, the snow is very, very heavy, especially when it's 5 feet or 4 feet at a time. The other problem is underneath the snowpack, it's pretty much a sheet of ice. So going in, trying to get the leverage to lift all that heavy, wet snow, some of the machines that we're using, the tires, it's a lot slower of a process because they're not getting much traction underneath it.
The amount of equipment that you have, has it been sufficient, or are you looking for more equipment still?
Right now, that's a great question. It's the amount of equipment we have sufficient. For all the needs that have come in, we've answered what the municipalities are doing. There's always a need for more equipment. We'll reevaluate tomorrow, especially now that we have a little break in the weather, and some of the other equipment might, that was offline will get back online. But I think right now we're just in the reassessment mode in the morning and see how tonight goes.
We could always use more equipment and resources. There's never enough in these situations. Any other questions? If not, I thank everybody who's dealing with this. It's a very difficult situation. I feel sorry for those that are in the snow zone. This is very similar to what occurred 8 years ago, but in some ways it's worse. because 8 years ago, we had 7 to 8 feet that fell over a 3-day period. Most of it, the first 3 feet fell in a 24-hour period, then it stopped, and then we had another 3 to 4 feet fall in another 24-hour period. Today, it's been recorded that 5.5 feet basically fell in 24 hours in Orchard Park. We know almost 5 feet, 4.5 feet fell in Lackawanna. Actually, more than 5 feet fell in Lackawanna, Hamburg, parts of West Seneca, parts of Aurora. So to all of you out there, this is in some ways, I said earlier, it was the little brother of the storm from 8 years ago, but in some ways it's even stronger because more snow has fallen in a shorter time span than what we saw 8 years ago. It's possible that in the end, more snow will have fallen over the duration of the storm 8 years ago than what we are seeing today. But this is a very significant snow event that will go down in the annals of Erie County history. And I want to thank everybody for doing what they can to ensure we get through it as quickly as possible. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank Karen Gambino once again from Deaf Access Services and our team that's working very hard. And the next press briefing will be at 6 o'clock in the morning with our crew, our overnight crew here. Thank you all. Be safe and well. Valley, I told you you wouldn't have to say anything. Sure. Commissioner.
Nice to meet you, miss.
I would have let you say it.